Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. We are back. It is recruiting intel time if it's Tuesday, and we got a lot to talk about with a pool party barbecue end of summer recruiting event upcoming here on Thursday. Before we go any further, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, help us get to 8,000. We're almost there, and we're looking forward to bringing you a ton of content, not just covering Texas recruiting, but also upcoming training camp. Speaking of, use the promo code IT1, get yourself 2 months of access for just $1. If you do that, you're going to be looking right around the corner at SEC play by the time your subscription renews, and we know you're going to want to stick around because maybe we're talking about a 4-0 team. So before we get there, got to talk a little bit about recruiting. And Coach, this is kind of a new addition to the recruiting calendar within the past couple of years. When they opened up June for official visits, obviously every weekend in June gets filled up. Most of July ends up being a dead period. So you'll have some national recruiting events like Elite 11. You have coaches going on vacation. You have, just network camps, things like that, but you don't have any recruiting visits on campus or off campus either. That dead period ends starting this Thursday. It lasts for a week, that little quick contact period. And now programs have a lot of different events or ways to use this. How have you seen this kind of evolve in the past few years? And what are teams like Texas really trying to do when they're hosting not just top 2025 guys, but also some 26s and 27s?
Yeah, it's a lasting impression on these kids right before they go back to their own prospective schools and fall camp, right, and get prepared for football. Like, Texas is on your mind. Like, I just left Texas at the end of the summer. When somebody asks you, what did you do? How the summer went. Man, well, my last place I went to go visit was Texas, and that's on the front of your mind. It's fresh on their minds. And so I think it just sends a reminder to the kids and the parents that, hey, we want you, we like you. But it gives Texas a chance for these players to kind of see them with their hair down, right? Kind of relaxed setting versus I don't have to pitch you anything, right? You can see me as family, see me as the older brother, big uncle, whatever the case, right? And so it really lets those guys see the entire family and the whole staff be themselves outside of the Longhorn logo. And I think it's a great idea. And I think that's what a lot of schools are trying to do, but specifically Texas.
Justin, kind of to that point, within the past few years, the off-season instruction that coaches can have, the limited hours a week they're able to be with them, and then just the calendar for the players with player-run practices. Texas uses this not only as a way to showcase what the program under the coaches are like, but what the program without the coaches are like, what the culture's like. And a lot of players, at least from this event the past couple of years, a lot of prospects and guys who eventually became Longhorns would always point to that. And we even could get some intel from it too. I think we heard a few years back that guys like John Cook, even as a freshman, were having a strong spring, strong summer. I think Roschon Johnson and Bijan always drew a few compliments. So not only does this showcase like what the coaches are wanting to do, but it also is a chance for Texas to showcase its players and how they do things.
It kind of reminds me of Texas strategy this spring, where they were bringing in not just, every weekend, every Saturday that they had a scrimmage, they had a handful of prospects and some of the best in the country. I mean, there was 15, 20 deep, not too many, but just enough to really keep everybody's attention. And then they were also bringing in guys during the week. Remember, Diabell showed up. I remember Andrew Marsh showed up. KJ Lacey showed up during a weekly deal. And so, honestly, our feedback from the players in April was kind of big, because I felt like these guys got to see, talking to certain player positions, they could see what was ahead of them. They could see, okay, that's actually who I might be going against, or that's who I might be catching a ball from. And so the coaches can say it till they're blue in the face, but they have to see it. And when they're out there watching practices and they're seeing those coaches really dig in their heels, and you're seeing it real life, it's not a recruiting pitch. It's coaching 101 day to day. When they see that, I think they get a better sense of the program, a better sense of the coaches, and getting to see those players firsthand. I know, a lot of these guys know each other. And so I think it just magnifies. I think what they did in April, they're bringing to late July. And this might wind up being a really good idea long term.
Before we go any further, got to tell you about another good idea, and that is calling Laura Baker for any of your Central Texas real estate needs. She's part of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams Realty. And if you've seen our cohort, Ian Boyd, you know that he now lives in the great state of Texas because of Laura Baker, and she has been helpful throughout the entire process, as he will tell you, and as countless others who have worked with Laura will tell you. So give her a call, 512-784-0505, or email her at laura@andyallenteam.com.
Joe, real quick, did we shift her territory even further past El Campo, or are we finally drawing a line?
What's that song from Dalhart to Del Rio? That may be a little too far. That's Panhandle to Border, but
But
Central
Miss Laura will
Texas,
take care of you. Wherever you're at, she'll take care of you.
we'll figure out the area codes where she does her business, zip codes, I guess, as well. But let's figure out some of the guys who will be heading into the 40 acres this upcoming weekend. We would have to start with the highest rated guy on the board, and that is Galveston ball safety Jonah Williams. This is one of the most contentious recruitments still out there. Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Texas, LSU, Oregon, which I know probably scares a lot of people. A lot of different things going on with this recruitment. Obviously, the want for a great football player is there with all these schools, but baseball's a factor. Jonah Williams is throwing in the mid 90s. He has a brother who went through the draft process as well. So multiple sports getting involved here. Our Eric Naleen had some intel. He posted late Sunday night, early Sunday morning or late Sunday night, early Monday morning on Jonah. Go to Inside Texas and check that out. But kind of the Cliffs notes, Justin, this is a good opportunity for Texas to get another strong sales pitch in front of Jonah. And they've had him on campus plenty in the summer over these past couple of years where he's been a high profile prospect.
Yeah, listen, let's just cut to the chase. Texas has some slack to make up in this recruitment. And it feels like there's a new leader every month. And that's not Jonah's fault because Jonah's not coming out proclaiming anybody to be a leader. It's all insider info. It's everybody talking behind the scenes. Well, he likes this, or he's leaning here. Well, baseball this, baseball that. You know, you said it. This is going to be one of those recruitments that it's going to be a fun thing to cover no matter what happens. But Texas has some slack to make up. Let's just be honest. Right now, I feel like LSU is probably the default school. If he were to sign tomorrow, I think he would wind up signing with LSU. Oregon jumped into the mix. We know what they're doing over there with Daddy Warbucks and Phil Knight. And so they're in the mix. USC has a good sell. And listen, Texas A&M might be the most consistent school on his list of all. Like if you talk to him over the last 2 years, Texas A&M is the most consistent. But what we know is that he is finally talking to Texas head baseball coach Jim Schlossnagle. He knows what Texas offers in football. He's close to Blake Gideon, PK, to Coach Sart. They love him at safety. That's been established. You know, he's a phenomenal athlete. But the fact that he's getting to talk to Jim Schlossnagle helps Texas because this is a baseball player. Once he hit 94 on the mound 2 weeks ago, his draft stock is going to go up naturally when you're a lefty. His brother, Nick, was a second-round draft pick of the Texas Rangers when he came out. And so there's a lot of talent there. I think the Horns are going to put all the chips on the table, honestly. They didn't get an official visit, Joe. Everybody else did. So in a way, this is a de facto official, even though it'll be for just a day. And if you do something right, if you leave them happy, then you could see these guys popping up for potentially an official in the fall because no matter if he commits soon or not, I think this recruitment goes to December. This is going to be an NIL recruitment, and this is going to be a fit recruitment when it comes to football and baseball right now. And so at the end of the day, I love that Texas is still in this because it's been a little while since he's been on campus. And Texas has some slack to make up, but hey, they're doing that right now.
We talk about slack and Coach, you even had gotten some info about, where Texas sits within his top five. And more often than not, it's kind of been closer to the bottom than it has been to the top of that top five. But something else you've discovered throughout covering this recruitment is that top five, like Justin mentioned, has changed so much to where it would be no surprise if that, maybe we're looking 2 months up down the road and Jonah Williams has, reportedly or behind the scenes, whatever, Texas as his leader with how much it's changed.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's very fluid. I think you have to recruit him into the whistle until December, man. Just just stay in constant contact with him and be consistent with him. I think that's the key things. And kind of like Justin said, it's NIL deal, and where does he fit? You got baseball, you got football. All right, you got things you can talk about like him playing offense and defense. Like have all the options on the table for this kid, right? He may be interested in playing both. I know he trains at receiver a lot, you know. So I mean, just saying. So you got all those options you can use to him, but use, to try to pitch to him and ideas. You may want to give him the opportunity, but just continue to recruit the kid and get to know him, get to know his family. I think that's right. Be genuine about it. Like, don't just be all about selling, 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 right? Be genuine about getting to know the kid. I think that wins over in the end.
I don't think there's anybody like Jonah Williams on the Texas roster, or at least whatever Jonah Williams becomes. I don't think there's anybody like him on the roster. And I think similar holds true for Michael Terry III, another Alamo Heights product, another Alamo Heights product. Never mind. Rare to see an Alamo Heights guy be as highly ranked as he is, but someone who Texas has been very involved with. He's seen Texas on numerous occasions this spring. But again, Texas A&M is there. Oregon is there. Nebraska has recruited him like he's the number one overall prospect in the country. But Justin, this is another opportunity for Terry to go up the road. Last time he was on campus, it felt like he got a better sense of what his fit would be, and that's thanks to Tashard Choice, thanks to AJ Milwee. But this seems like an opportunity for him to continue to see why he has an affinity for Texas, and maybe if you're in Texas, get him to further envision himself in burnt orange.
This is a Texas-Oregon battle, guys, because as soon as that visit was scheduled, Oregon offensive coordinator Will Stein was on the phone with Terry to make sure that you're going to go see Texas on Thursday. Well, we need you back at Eugene on Saturday, and he's coming back. And so this is one of those counteract punch type deal recruitments where when one school makes a move, the other one is on the hook for the next move. And so, like you said, Nebraska's been fantastic. I feel like Texas A&M has been a good sell there as well. But AJ Milwee really laid down the foundation during that official visit. He really answered a lot of questions from Terry and his family. And listen, this kid grew up down the road. He's always been a Texas fan. I felt like if they would have laid this foundation in January at the junior day, this recruitment would already be over with. But hindsight is always 2020. Tashard Choice offered him in 8th grade when he was at Georgia Tech. Will Stein offered him in 8th grade when he was at UTSA. So he's got those relationships with those two coaches. And I think those are going to be the two that duke it out. Both got official visits. Terry's looking at an August decision. This might be the last chance Texas has a hard sell before the season starts. I don't think they're going to stop recruiting him even if he does pick Oregon in August, and I have no knowledge to where he will, but I don't think they're going to stop recruiting him because there's a spot for him in this Texas program. For a kid like Michael Terry, there's a spot everywhere. Texas is just going to have to this is going to be a kind of a push type visit, I feel like, on Thursday, because they need to know where they stand before they let him get on that plane and go back to Moneyland in Oregon. And I don't say that disparagingly. Hey, give them all the credit in the world. If you got it, flaunt it. I get it. But Texas has their hands on a battle with the number one athlete in the country. I like where Texas is right now. But the more he goes to Oregon, the more I might chip away at my prediction.
I hear that for sure. Those are the two main 2025 guys we got to talk about. Time to move forward to 2026. And, Coach, we will go with possibly the best player in the state of Texas across all cycles, and that is John Turntine, Fort Worth, North Crowley. He's got a teammate that's committed to Texas and Jonathan Cunningham. How's that going to make an effect on this recruitment? And then what do you think the Turntines, who have been to Texas plenty over the course of the spring, are looking for to see out of this visit?
Yeah, actually, being in the commitment of Jonathan Cunningham, Turntime was fired up when he picked Texas, so I thought that was a good. So to see the reaction out of him, you know what I mean? So it made me smile. But I think Turntime really just wants to continue to build a relationship with the Texas staff. I think this is what it's all about. He's making this trip this time without Dad, so now that Mom gets a chance to see what the Texas staff is all about. She always hears about the Texas staff, but now she gets to go see it in person. So I think that's a great thing. And so it's all about relationships with him and his family, and they get to go see the coaching staff once again outside of competing, outside of a recruiting pitch, right? Just come hang around, see if it's a vibe, see if it's a fit for him and the family. And so I think this is a great opportunity. And, Coach Sark said way back, some few months ago, the more times you can get guys on campus, the better. And so he's been there a few times, and getting him back on campus again before school starts is great.
Justin, when it comes to John Turntine, 5-star offensive tackle, they're after other offensive tackles in the class ahead of them as well. Is there any way that the class of 2025 really has an effect on how Turntine sees things as it pertains to Texas, or is that someone that might be a little bit overblown?
If you would have asked me that in January, I would have said, yeah, you probably need to watch this. You've got Gooseby coming back, who's going to be a star once he's a starter. He'll find a niche in the rotation this year. He'll be a full-on starter next year. You got Brandon Baker, 5-star out of California. He's going to be factoring into the mix in the rotation next year. And this question is really about Michael Fasusi. How much does that affect him? That's a franchise left tackle, top guy on the Texas O-line board. Kyle Flood's personal favorite. They've majorly prioritized this guy. I don't think it affects Turntine as much as it might affect Fasusi. I think Turntine's kind of got a good idea of who he really likes right now and can envision where he's going to play in the future. And I think we can all agree that Texas is in a great spot for that right now. But does that affect Michael Fasusi, who makes that decision on August 21st? That's the fun part about recruiting, is the domino effect. One is sometimes going to affect the other when you're dealing with 5-stars. And for Fasusi, I've talked to him before about guys like Gooseby and Brandon Baker, the guys he would be competing with, because Fasusi wants to play early, and Oklahoma has sold him on the fact that he will be able to get on the field and play early. Whereas with Turntine, I think Turntine's more going to call his own shot. I think he's going to go with comfortability. I don't think he's really caring about who's going to be in this 2025 class, to be totally honest with you. I think John Turntine is so comfortable in himself. Him and his family are going to find the best home. And if that means they're going to have to compete with a Baker, with a Gooseby, with a Fasusi potentially down the road, I don't think that bothers Turntine. I will tell you this, Fasusi's paying attention to the depth chart. Every cycle I find 5 or 6 kids that really pay attention to the depth charts on all these schools. I remember Keontae Ingram could run off the depth chart of the top 5 schools he had offered to him when he was a junior in high school. He knew everyone that was going everywhere. He did his homework. Fasusi's the same way. So I don't think it's going to necessarily affect it, but I think it's something to pay attention to it's a great question. It's something we'll be able to pay attention to.
I don't know if we had you lined up in the single shot or if we had all 3 of us for that segment, but if you didn't, Coach was nodding the whole time. He was agreeing with everything you said. And like I said, I don't know of anybody who's been to North Crowley more than Coach. So
Coach owns that Turntine recruitment. Nobody has been better on the John Turntine recruitment. Give Coach Williams 100% credit on that.
Got 2 more 2026s to talk about. We will go with Javian Osborne, a running back out of Forney. Texas doesn't have a running back committed in that 2026 class right now after Grace Guillory decided to decommit. There's also been some other movement with 2026 running backs, apparently, that both of y'all touched on Inside Texas over the weekend. But Javian Osborne, in a class in Texas that has 3 tremendous, actually probably about 6 or 7 tremendous running backs who could play at the high Power 5 level. Javian Osborne may be one of the better ones, and Texas gets him on campus this weekend. Justin, how is Texas proceeding with the Forney product, and where does Tashard Choice see Osborne fitting into things with the Longhorns?
Yeah, it's a great situation that's really kind of formulated over the last 48 hours. We go to InsideTexas.com and check out our new visitor list that Coach Williams and I put up yesterday. There's a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of new stuff. With Osborne, there's a lot of moving parts there. Listen, Texas, that's number 1 on their big board. They want Osborne overall. They've got 3 or 4 other guys that they really like and potentially love. Javian Osborne's number 1 on that big board. And for good reason. He's a fantastic, he's on 3's number 1 rated running back in the country. But there's the domino effect, kind of like what we talked about the last segment. Tredarian Ball is now starting to lean towards Oregon. Texas really likes Tredarian Ball. They've had him in. I think he's visited Texas at least 6 or 7 times. Like they really, really like Ball. But Ball's starting to feel a little bit more comfort with Oregon. Texas is kind of shifting. They love KJ Edwards out of Carthage. They're watching Davion Gross out of Frisco Lone Star. But at the end of the day, Osborne's number 1. And don't be, I think I said before, This would be the class. 2026 was finally going to be the class that Tashard Choice decided to stay in state because he's got 4 or 5 dudes within like a 3 or 4 hour radius of UT of all together. You wouldn't have to go too far. But after checking with sources over the weekend, it looks like they got a Georgia running back on the radar in a man named Amari Latimer. And please come to Inside. He's out of Sandy Creek in Georgia. Please come to Inside Texas. 6 foot, over 200 pounds. And I was told by this source, when you're in the SEC, you need a big body back. And if you can give a thunder and lightning type of example, that's 5'10 and a half, 190 pound Javian Osborne. And then you get that Amari Latimer kid, who don't be surprised if he takes a visit to Texas relatively soon. And so that's the domino effect of the running backs right now. Getting Osborne on campus is big because everybody's offered him, guys. Oregon, USC, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, they've all offered him. They've all made pushes for good reason. I don't ever doubt Tashard Choice when it comes to the running back position because he's proven it over and over again. He usually gets his main guys, but I wouldn't be surprised if the 2026 cycle is just like the other ones. You get the one you really want in state, and then get the one you really want out of state.
Last but certainly not least is Dia Bell, the American Heritage quarterback from the 2026 class, one of 2 2026 commits who will be on campus this upcoming Thursday, excuse me. And coach, when you talk about someone like Dia Bell, he's seen Texas a bunch. He's committed. He's locked in. But now, as we started to point out over on Inside Texas, he's reaching out to players who the Longhorns are really after. He's starting to get contact and make that connection with some elite players, not just in his class, but in others. So how important is it for Bell as a commit to be there and start putting on the recruiting hat and telling some of the other top prospects that Texas is the place and his class is the one to join?
Yeah, the quarterback's the captain. He's the leader, man. And he's leading the ship, man. He's got it, and he knows it takes a full team, to win a championship. And he's trying to go out there and recruit guys to join him, which he should. He's not being shy about that. I think that comes from just knowledge of who his dad is and being around a pro athlete like that. Like, hey, it takes a team to win. So why not try to get everybody in the car with you and let's go for this ride together on this journey? And I think he's doing a great job of that. And he has to, being the leader. I know everybody looks to the quarterback, and so he's leading the charge, man.
He made a big impression too, guys, when he came on July 1st and competed at the elite camp. He made an impression on those receivers and those tailbacks, those guys. Every person we talked to after that camp, Dia Bell was the first name mentioned. I believe Peyton Houston was probably, or Brady Edmonds was probably the second name mentioned. Dia Bell was unanimous. That everyone talked about him, not just his ability, but his way of engaging with players. He's got an infectious type of charisma that I think every recruiting class, if you've got a 5-star quarterback that brings those attributes, that's a top 5 class. Those guys want to go play with the best, and Dia Bell is definitely one of the best.
So there's a history of quarterbacks coming to this event, starting to set the tone and trying to recruit more and more in the 2026 class and maybe even the 2025 class. So we'll have full discussion, full coverage of that over on InsideTexas.com. Make sure you head there, use the promo code IT1, get 2 months of access for just $1. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you are listening on podcasts, whether on Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever service is still out there, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating and review. We appreciate it a ton. We also would like to thank Laura Baker and her work with the Andy Allen team, the elite Andy Allen team. Been a great sponsor of Inside Texas for a long time. Make sure you go check her out. Give her a call for your Central Texas housing needs. Justin, Charlie, thank you so much. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.